Yeah, so I mean, we had a bunch of internal conversations, and without getting too far into specifics, like, we've been pretty outspoken about our need for pitching, and obviously, we know him, we know Nick really well. This is ultimately where we landed. We'll see how it play out.
All right, welcome back. It's a new episode of the Obstructed View Baseball Podcast presented by Beyond the Monster. I'm your host, Chris Henrik. I am joined by my co-host, Kevin Perdios, who will be joining us for a couple of episodes this week to talk some Red Sox as we begin the off season. But before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping to take care of first. Head on over to beyondthemonster.substack.com and subscribe to all of our content that's dropping on a daily basis, including Ed Hand's free agent MLB tracker. Currently has 170 MLB free agents listed with a breakdown for each player, and that will go up to, I believe he said, up to 300. So there'll be a blurb for every one of those players. It's pinned to the main page. All you got to do is click on it, and it's free. You don't have to pay anything for that. Also, head on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, wherever you catch any of your favorite podcasts, and hit that subscribe button. You'll get notified when a brand new episode drops, including this week, Red Sox infield prospect Justin Reimer, pitching prospect Peyton Tolley will be out later on this week. We will have a ton of new episodes. Now we get that out of the way. Kevin, we're going to talk a little Nick Pivetta. Nick Pivetta today received the qualifying offer from the Red Sox. And before we really get into that, I want your initial reaction to hearing or reading, or however it is you had the news delivered to you, that Nick Pivetta is now going to make $21.05 million next season if he accepts the QO.
I didn't expect him to be the highest paid pitcher on our staff. I didn't have that on my bingo card, that's for sure. I know the cesspool that is Twitter, X, whatever, everyone lost their minds on it. I don't know if I agree with giving it to him. I understand why they would if they do what they should do this offseason and make the moves to make Pivetta your number 3, your number 4. But that requires trading and signing and spending money, which I don't have any faith that they'll do. So knowing what we know, if the season was to start, I would be like, this is typical Red Sox ownership right now. We're going to give this guy the qualifying offer, hoping he denies it, and then we get a draft pick out of it. It's like, you're the Boston Red Sox. You don't have to do that. You have money. You can just let him go. It's okay. But hopefully we're come mid-April, he's the number 3 in the rotation.
Yeah, initial reaction for me was why? I completely understand that you can never have enough starting pitching. And I'm fine with Nick Pivetta coming back to the Red Sox, but at $21 million, knowing and just really going off of what we've gotten to see the last couple of years, we don't know whether or not the Red Sox are going to go and spend this offseason, if they're going to go beyond that first threshold. We have no idea. All we can go by is the information that is in front of us, and that's based off of previous off seasons. And it's going to tell you that they're not going to spend to the expectation that we want them as, Red Sox media, Red Sox fans to spend to generate the right buzz for this team and obviously build the right team for 2025. If Breslow is trying to bank on Pivetta not accepting the qualifying offer and trying to be the smartest guy in the room, look, if Pivetta turns it down, all right, you made the right call. Judging by his trade deadline moves, my confidence meter in Craig Breslow and some of his decision-making is kind of waned a little bit. He's been on the job for a year. He says the same things. He seemed to be more focused on the audit that was done on the front office and the organization and the restructuring and the reshuffling. The Red Sox play on the field forced him to have to invest into the team. I give him credit for making moves, but he didn't make the right moves. And he made a handful of bad moves. Luis Garcia gave up 4 prospects. I'm fine with trading 4 prospects, but you got nothing back for him. Lucas Sims is probably, of the guys they acquired, one of the few that I'd like to see come back on short money. I think if he's healthy, see what you can kind of get out of him. But I'm not a fan of Nick Pivetta at $21 million when you have a need for high-end starting pitching and you have a handful of Nick Pivettas now. You have guys that can occupy that back end. You say 3. I don't think he's a 3. I think he's a 4 or a 5. If he pitches consistently, yeah, he has the ability to pitch like a 3, but we've seen it the last couple of years. He's an inconsistent pitcher. Remember a couple of years ago, he was pitching lights out. There's minor conversation. Maybe this guy could start the All-Star game. Wheels fell off. Last year, I'm not going to go and beat him up too much. He did get hurt. He was a reliable arm. So, there wasn't really much from an injury concern standpoint, but just that inconsistency, and you're paying him $21 million. On top of it, you have a $19 million pitcher and a guy coming off of surgery that you don't know what that's going to look like just yet. And you have a need for high-end starting pitching, and you just spent $21 million, possibly $21 million on a guy that really is a number 4. And that is, to me, I don't understand how Craig Breslow, the smartest man in the room, it just makes that move. To me, I don't know. I'm puzzled by it. Now, I'm gonna throw this back at you. Maybe he gets Pivetta. Pivetta signs that. Then they trade somebody, and instead of spending big time money on Max Fried or one of those guys, and he acquires Garrett Crochet, who, by the way, I have zero interest in. I will be in the minority when it comes to people talking about Crochet. There is just something when your gut tells you something about somebody, you're generally right. You can give me all the metrics, and I'm telling you, I've seen it, and it's great. There's something about Garrett Crochet that just scares the ever-loving shit out of me that I do not want that dude to be pitching for the Red Sox. Just something about it. But I'm only going off of gut. I'm not going to go through read stats and baseball savant. I'm not going to nerd up for you. I'm just kind of giving you my gut feeling. I don't do a lot of that. But what if the Red Sox make a trade and they get a young arm that's controllable, and now you're not spending a ton, and your acquisitions essentially now are Nick Pivetta at $21 million gross, Garrett Crochet, or you make a deal with the Mariners. Maybe you get a Brian Wu. By the way, it's not enough. It's not enough.
No. It's, and I say Pivetta's the number 3 at a peak. Like, I'm saying, well, you mentioned a few years ago, he's getting in the conversations to start the All-Star game. I'm saying that's his, like, if he gets back to that form, he's a number 3. On any given day, you're exactly right. He's a 4 or a 5. Like, he's hey, we need you to just go eat up some innings. We get you're going to allow 5 runs, but we have the offense that we can score 8 today. So don't worry about it. Like, that's fine. I hate kind of making these comments prior, because you got to see everything they do. But like you said, it's I have no faith in them doing what they should do. And what they should do is going to make a trade, going to sign guys. They should be back to the Red Sox of old. But as I've said in the past on countless episodes, the nerd ball era is killing it. And Breslow is just same voice in a different body. Like, it's the same thing over and over again and they can't get out of their own way. That's my whole own thing, is just stop talking. Like, the more you say, the bigger hole you dig yourself in.
Yeah, a little less talking, a little more action.
Right.
And
exactly.
that's kind of what I'm looking for. And just to kind of chime in really quick on something you just said a couple of seconds ago. I think what we're doing is we're giving our instant gut reaction, and I'm completely open and willing, obviously, to let the to kind of let the picture kind of present itself. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, this is a quick reaction to Nick Pivetta getting a QO. This is not the final roster. It's not the final rotation. The Red Sox could look and will look dramatically different by the time we get to spring training. Who the hell knows? Maybe they do sign Max Fried. They move Cutter Crawford. Now Pivetta fills in for Crawford. They spent up to that first luxury. Maybe they spent a smidge over, whatever. That's a different conversation. This is just gut reaction. What we're doing is exactly what every Red Sox fan, whether they were pro this move or not, this is what people did today. And a lot of people were in the right to be like, wow, like, okay, I didn't see that coming, and I don't really understand why you did that. So now we need to let the rest of the pieces kind of present itself. Again, to me, I think that it's going to lead to them getting someone who is a little more cost controllable from a trade perspective. And again, that's strictly me saying that because this team has not done anything to the expectation that has fans and others that can think that they're going to legitimately spend. I think they could have used that money and put it towards Max Fried. I think they need the Max Fried to be perfect at the top of the rotation. And then you can go ahead and, find another Quinn Priester, find another 2 or 3 Quinn Priesters and get a handful of those guys and supplement that your back end. And maybe you get another veteran or whatever. I just think right now, the first day of free agency on, we're recording this on Monday, November 4th. This episode is going to drop on Tuesday, November 5th. Gut reaction, just yikes, absolutely yikes. And it's strictly the price point.
Yeah, the last thing I'll chime in on, and then we can move on or whatever. They do this because there's no one else coming up. Like there's no other guy in the pipeline. Like they do this. You're in this. If you have, and I don't want to kick the guy when he's down. Like if Brian Mata turned out to be what they really, really thought he would be, like if they truly thought that guy and he panned out. I don't think they do this because they view it as, all right, we'll let Pivetta go when this guy steps into his place. But because they've whiffed on the pitching side of it, for the most part, I know there's other guys that are still coming up, and I'm hoping they turn out to be what they're projected to be. But as we know right now is they've whiffed on a lot of their pitching, and they don't have much quality pitching in the system, which forces you to do quote unquote overpay for Nick Pivetta, paying him $21 million because if we started today, what else do we have?
I think if a guy like Richard Fitz had been in the system a year prior, and we had last year, 2 years ago, and then this year he had a little more time in the bigs. Same thing with a guy like Quinn Priester. We're probably not having the conversation about Nick Pivetta in the qualifying offer. We're probably looking at Nick Pivetta not getting the QO, going to free agency, and maybe the Red Sox looking to do a deal and going if they wanted to do a deal from that standpoint. So some of this pitching development is, but it's not just Breslow's fault. I mean, this has been an ongoing, that's been an ongoing thing for years. And I would say that the only thing I'm going to give him any sort of credit for is that he is trying to improve that. Again, Richard Fitz made some strides. Quinn Priester looked good towards the latter end. His first start was atrocious for the Woo Sox, but then after that, he settled in. By the way, like getting to see him in Worcester, the guy puts in the work. You know what I mean? Like he was putting in the work between his bullpens, between being in the weight room. The Red Sox asked him to add weight. The dude's walking around the clubhouse. He's got two hands loaded with protein shakes. Like the guy was doing what he needed to do. He wanted to get the velo back on the fastball. So he was doing things that the Red Sox are asking of him, and he was putting in the work. Hopefully that obviously carries into the off season, and we see a different guy going into next spring. As for, Pivetta, I guess to try to pull a positive, not to just completely just, shit all over this move that Breslow made today. If he comes back, you're going into your second year of, pitching under Andrew Bailey. Again, I don't have these numbers in front of me. And, if one thing I would say to kind of like throw out to people is let's take a look at some of the Giants pitchers. Andrew Bailey's first year. What do those guys look like in year two? What jumps that those guys make. Now, granted, some of those guys, like a Kevin Gausman, there's not a Kevin Gausman on the Red Sox staff at the moment, right? Maybe the closest thing, and I'm not saying that Brian Bayo is that or Tanner Houck, but like that's like the closest you can potentially say that what that is, but they're still different arms. He gets the opportunity to take more of a stride. Maybe he cleans up some of the stuff and all of a sudden he starts to realize more of that potential. And now, I wonder if like Nick Pivetta was what Heimblum wanted him to maybe turn into the next like Nathan Eovaldi. Like, I wonder if he looked at him like that, like they see, like they have the same like mentality. They have a lot of, the great stuff. I just wonder if like the Red Sox envisioned Pivetta being like that next Pivetta type with that upside. Tampa Bay wanted him as well. The Red Sox snuck in and traded for him. Pivetta was serviceable. He was okay. Not $21 million for a QO. Okay. But
yeah. I mean, yeah. we've been kind of hammering it right now. And I think it strikes as we're afraid to let him go because his potential may come true next year. Like it's almost like, well, we think this guy could be Nathan Eovaldi, but let's give it one more shot. We really do think he could be that, but he hasn't shown it, but we think he could. It's like, to me, that's what small market teams do.
Yeah, right? No, that's exactly what it is. It's what the Royals right. Do things
right.
like
now, they have to hold on to guys hoping they pan out because they can't pay $30 million a year, $40 million a year for the ace.
And it kind of makes me wonder too, with like we just mentioned the Royals, and it worked for them last year. Seth Lugo, he was an all-star. Michael Wacha was outstanding. He just re-signed. I just get leery with guys who, and Pivetta's not a journeyman, but like guys who are journeymen and they're in their, Pivetta's going to, I think, age 31 season. It gives me, and again, they don't have enough young arms to go and say you need to invest in young arms. And if it's easier said than done, but I guess to wrap up the Nick Pivetta QO episode here, he has until November 19th to decide if he's going to accept that qualifying offer, the $21.05 million. Spotrac lists his market value as 4 years and $60 million. The Red Sox do have time from now. They have 15 days to negotiate. Red Sox could work out a deal with Pivetta. Maybe they get a 3-year deal hammered home, and he makes like $16 million per, $17 million per. I truly thought he would get like a $17 million a year packed. That's what I kind of thought he would be around that 60 to 68 million. That's what I kind of felt he would get. We'll see. But if not, and he turns down the QO, then the Red Sox get a draft pick for him to sign elsewhere, and we move on. And then so will the Red Sox. So head over to beyondthemonster.substack.com. Once again, hit the subscribe button. It is currently free. All we need is your email. You get content on a daily basis, including, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, Ed Hand's free agent tracker. 170 free agents are listed inside there. Again, a lot of really good stuff that's there. Also, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube to our podcast. To the Show We Go, Obstructed View Baseball Podcast, the Pesky Report, as well as Pod by the River, which is hosted by Ed Hand and Hogdale, which if you are on Red Sox Twitter or Red Sox X, Hogdale happens to scream, yell, and holler when he is covering and doing the Red Sox live streams, and they're entertaining. So Nick Pivetta, it's going to make $21.05 million next year. You're welcome.